going to do the invocation of the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody will please stand. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, Lord God. Thank you as we do the work of the city, Lord. Please help all of our city employees, all of our first responders, Lord. Thank you for everything you do for us. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Chair Lumnick.
Here.
Vice Chair Millen.
Here.
Member Kennedy.
Here.
Member Forges.
Here.
Member Williams is absent. Member Keller.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great, thanks. Can I get a motion on the consent agenda for the meeting of, for the minutes of April 12th?
So moved.
Give me a second. Huh?
Can I comment on
Sure.
it? The only comment I had was, I feel that the presentation that was given to the commission was somewhat different to what we had on the project on Old Winter Garden, when I read the minutes.
What do you mean?
The project we have on Old Winter Gardens.
Are you talking about the Regency?
Correct, the Regency.
Okay.
It says that, the minute says that the developers would extend Old Winter Garden to 50. During the commission meeting, it said would stop at a certain point.
Mike gave that presentation to the city, to the council, so let's see. what-
Correct.
Developer rumor.
Yeah,
That's what
the
that's
old
what
Winter
I had on
Garden
it.
Road extension will go to State Road 50, but this developer only has land portion where just a western segment from McGuire is gonna be built. They don't have control of the land going north up to State Road 50.
Okay.
Their plan showed just a portion going from McGuire about 2,000 feet and then tapering off because it followed their northern property line.
Okay.
But the overall roadway extension in the comp plan goes all the way up to,
Or up to
State Road
50, but
50.
not for this particular, not for these two developers currently. They're not the one extending.
there's
it to
one
50.
developer for the Regency.
Okay.
Two property
owners, I'm
owners.
sorry, two owners, one
Two
developer.
property owners, yes, and their
Gotcha.
land doesn't extend all the way up. That's
Okay.
under contract.
Okay, so eventually it'll go to 50, but not under these developers.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, that's all. That's the only question I had.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a motion by member Keller, who's voting tonight because member Williams is out. Then I have a second by member Kennedy to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Carries. We're going to switch from old business, we're going to go to new business first. This is going to be 901 Care Circle, Country Comfort Care. We're looking for a variance request, VR 2202. Miss Whitfield.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. So the application before the commission tonight is a Country Comfort Care variance. The property is at 902 Higher Circle. So the question or the issue before the commission is, should the commission approve a variance to section 5-15B, parentheses 2, which requires compliance with Florida Statute section 419.001, subsection 2, and which particularly prohibits the location of a minor community residential home within 1,000 feet radius of another existing minor community residential home in order to allow a minor community residential home to be located within 550 feet of an existing home. A minor community residential home is a home that serves recipients of state services that are serving 6 or fewer residents.
So minor doesn't mean minor in its age, it's just the resident count.
Yes, it's the number of residents being served.
Thank you.
The property is located between Higher Circle and Coons Place. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's about 22.22 acres. It's in the Ocoee Commons PUD. The applicant purchased the property on March 22nd, 2022. On March 17th, the applicant requested an ALF reservation letter, and on the 29th was issued a denial based on non-compliance with the code reference. And now the applicant is seeking to open a sister facility, which is located at 863 Coons Place. This is an aerial of the property and the surrounding neighborhoods, the surrounding zoning, Ocoee Commons PUD. Section 5-15 basically says that prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the owner of operator of a minor community residential home or the property owner shall provide to the building and zoning director a statement certifying that the use is in compliance with the restrictions set forth in section 419.001, parens 2 of the Florida statutes. And in particular with the prohibition on the location of such a use within 1,000 feet of an existing minor community residential home. I included in this slide the reference from Florida statutes and highlighted the provisions that affect this property. The language in the red box is how the 1,000 foot or where the 1,000 foot comes from. And it also speaks to how the distance is measured, which is radius, which is as the crow flies. Using GIS, we located the subject property, which is this red square here. And this existing one, her existing operation is at 863 Coons Place, same ownership, and this black circle is the 1,000 foot radius. The 550-foot radius essentially crosses the property, the existing property right here at a diagonal. So the application for a variance has to satisfy these 4 criteria. I included in the commission's packet the applicant's narrative where she attempted to address these 4 criteria. Sorry, not 5, 4. That special conditions or circumstances exist that are particular to the property, that the literal interpretation of the code would deprive the applicant of rights that are commonly enjoyed by other properties with similar conditions, and that the special conditions or circumstances resulting in the variance is not something that was the result of the applicant's actions, and that the granting of the variance will not confer to this particular applicant any special privileges that would be denied by these regulations to other lands and property owners. In looking at the criteria in the code and looking at the particular circumstances of this property and the applicant's request, staff finds that there are no special circumstances or conditions. We were informed that she purchased the property specifically to operate a minor community residential home. A literal interpretation of the code would not deprive the property owner's rights commonly enjoyed by others, which is essentially using the property as a single-family home. The circumstances of the variance do result from the actions of the property owner, and granting the variance would confer special privileges that are denied by these regulations to other lands and structures. A 5th item is that staff feels that the granting of the variance would be in violation of Florida Statute Section 419. And with that, we are recommending that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to the City Commission a denial of the variance request for the property located at 902 Higher Circle for a minor community residential home operation. I don't know what the applicant looks like, so I don't know if she's here. Okay, she's here. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for staff? All right, I'm going to open it up to the public. First, we have the applicant. Miss, you told me exactly how to say this too. Miss Udit, I apologize if I'm saying that incorrectly.
Arjun?
Or,
Amanda Arjun?
okay, whoever the applicant is, if you want to come up. Amanda, I apologize. Just go right up to the podium there and just state your name and your address, please.
My name's Amanda Arjun, and I guess my address, is that where I live, or
Your business address is fine.
okay, so 902 Higher Circle.
Great. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Okay. If you want to just sit over there for a second in case something else comes up, I appreciate it. We have some speakers for this particular one. I believe, I'm going to say this wrong and I apologize. Jaram Udit? Yes. If you want to come up to the podium, please.
Can I read my
until the applicant present her.
No.
I cannot.
No, please come up, thank you. Say your name and your address, please.
My name is Jairam Udit. My address is 936 Higher Circle, Ocoee, Florida, 34761. I am here, I'm a resident of Ashton Park, and myself and other homeowners who are here are very concerned that we have investors buying the homes as, that they're going to reside in the homes, and then turn around, in this particular case, 902 Higher Circle, and asking for a variance to convert that home actually to a living facility. And one of the things that, this morning I was looking online to get some information, and I looked at the agenda of this particular meeting, and I saw this report that Mrs. Whitfield presented, so I read it. And when I read it, I was happy to see that the variance recommendation is a denial. And I also look at that particular report, the staff report, and I also saw that Ms. Amanda Arjun letter. And one of her key point is that she already has 863 Place, 863 Kunz Place as an assisted living facility. And the argument is that, okay, I already have one, and I guess the statute allowed her to have one. But and then she bought into this one, and as Mrs. Winfield articulated in her presentation, that it is within 1,000 feet of variance, and she is asking to reduce that to 550. And one thing I want to read this part because this part is important. I also read, I don't know if she's Mrs. or Miss, Amanda Arjun letter, in which she states that she is the owner of 863 Kunz Place, which is an existing residential living facility. However, she failed to mention that she has received several non-compliance letters that she has violated our HOV governing docs. And I quote the article of our governing docs. Article 3.111, Rules and Regulations, Section 3.1, Residential Use. Each lot shall be used for a single-family residential purposes only, and no trade or business of any kind may be carried on therein or thereon. However, the lease or rental of a resident shall not constitute a violation of this covenant. And if I'm not mistaken with the presentation, it was clearly stated she bought the property at 903 Higher with the intention of opening a living facility, because that is on the record of the staff presentation.
Okay. Sorry, sir, I'm going to stop you. We have a 3-minute time limit for each resident.
Okay, I will conclude. I hope you will take.
You're already at your 3 minutes. I apologize. I'll give you just a couple more seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, I hope you will take this into consideration. If there's any further appeal in the case, I hope you will consider, our.
Thank you very much. Mr. Joel Nieves, you'll just come up to the podium, please, and state your name and address for the record. Your 3 minutes as well.
Joel Nieves, 842 Casaro Circle, same neighborhood. Jaron kind of covered it for us. He could continue with my 3 minutes, but like he said, I mean, we have one already. Doesn't seem to be a big deal, like my wife says, but you give them a variance, which you're already denying or recommending you deny. So what's the next step? We get one for 550, then the next one is 250? How does this go? That would be my question, basically. I mean, we're setting a precedence here. How does this end up being like, Am I gonna be surrounded by living facilities where every time I step out, there's an ambulance, something like that? That would be my concern going forward. I don't know how this works, so that's where my concern comes in. Is it gonna stop at 1, then 2, then 5, 10? We got a small community, very small, actually. That's all I had to say.
Great, thank you very much. All right, our next presenter will be Ruben Otrio. Thank you, sir, sorry. Just state your name and address, please.
Mr. Chairman.
My name is Ruben Onofrio, 900 Higher Circle,
Yes, sir.
and I came here to say that I think it's not appropriate to have that business in our neighborhood. Basically, it's that, what I have to say. It's gonna be it's gonna be much more busy than, and I live exactly the next door for this house, and I think we're gonna have ambulances, a lot of things there that I don't think is appropriate. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody, that's all the speaker cards I have. Was there anybody else who wanted to talk about this? Please come up and state your name, and then when you're done, just bring me your card if you would. You can give it to me.
Sorry for my tardiness.
You're good.
Coming from work.
You're all right. Thank you. Gail Woods.
Good afternoon. My name is Gail Woods. I live at 942 Higher Circle, and I just want to echo everything everyone else has said. We bought into this neighborhood because it was single families and the number of homes that are in the neighborhood. We only have 75 homes in our neighborhood, and we want to keep it as single family homes in the neighborhood. Again, I've seen the ambulances coming back and forth, and I don't want our neighborhood to turn into a, living facility neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Is the comments pretty much going to be the same? Yes. Well then, you can still talk if you'd like, but if, you're, come on up. I think we kind of get the gist. Thank you. Just go up to the podium and state your name and address. Yeah.
Yes. Can you hear me with the mask?
You can take your mask down, please.
Okay. My name is Audrey Ice, and I live at 908 Higher Circle. And my family and I, we bought the house because it's a quiet neighborhood, a quiet street we could walk on, whenever time we want to. And I would rather don't have the residents there. As they say, ambulance, not only ambulance, but I'm sure they'll have visitors in and out. So I would feel more comfortable to maintain it just as a family residence neighborhood. That's what I have to say.
Great. Thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to speak that might have something different to say, or as long as it's the same thing? Yes, ma'am? Do you have a card? Fill it out when you're done, please. Come on up. That's okay. Yeah, and you can speak too, sir, if you'd like.
So
Go
my
ahead.
name is Lian Fan, and I live at 905 Higher Circle, which is a few houses across from 902 Higher Circle. We've been there since the subdivision was built, and I have two kids. It's a quiet subdivision, and when I heard about the news of the minor community residential, I did not know there was one already exists across the street. So in order to grant the variance of this second home is a violation of 419.01 under section 3C, because it says that such as two that across street from each other within 1,000 feet will result in the over concentration that would result in the change of nature of the structure of the area. That's all that I need to say, because I think that if City of Ocoee allowed to have an exemption for the first one, then the second one can be built. Who can prevent another agency to have another home which is about 500 feet from another one? So that would be not, that would change the total area of the community.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. You want to come up, sir?
I already spoke with me, so.
Okay. You want to come up, sir? Sure. Come on, why not? Just make sure you fill out your form. Ma'am, don't forget there's a form back there on the table. Please fill it out. The speaker form before you leave. Thank you. All right, and after this, we're probably going to close the public hearing.
Well, thank you, Board. I very much appreciate it. And I think it's a wonderful idea.
Say your name and your address. I'm sorry to interrupt.
My name is Raj. I live on Kazaro Circle, 834.
Okay.
And I really do think it's a great idea to have a senior living facility, but not in our community, 100%. This community is for residents only. I do not approve of it. I really do think if a commercial development is to be in our community, it needs to be in a commercial type facility. That's just my opinions. I know there are many residents here who do not approve of it, and I know they're with me as well too.
Correct.
So please, if you could think about it, Board, we would deny that approval.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, does anybody else have any more questions for the applicant before I close the public hearing? Did you want to say anything before we go? I give you 3 minutes to talk as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do I have to say my name again? Or-
Yep.
All right, Amanda Arjun, 902 Higher Circle. So prior to this, I don't think a lot of people knew that I was in existence at 863. I think I've seen my next door neighbor to the right of me have an ambulance come to that property more than mine. So at that, I don't think we were even in existence to anybody's eyes and ears at that point. As well as, I don't know, everybody in this room, I think, has a mom or dad that's probably close to retirement or in a senior home. I don't know how many of you guys know how expensive it is to keep a loved one in an assisted living or maybe a nursing home. And I'm pretty sure a lot of us in this room don't have a loved one that has a retirement plan. So when that time comes, you guys are gonna be searching for every cranny of pennies to put them in a place. My particular facility works with funding and helps keep loved ones in a home-like setting. Unfortunately, a lot of these nursing homes that are getting shut down by the state of Florida are not sufficient for humans to be in. So if shutting homes like mine down is what makes the community happy, then eventually seniors are not gonna have a place to go. So my opening an assisted living that probably you guys didn't know that was existing before, shutting this one down is just causing our community not to have a lack of these houses. And then eventually senior homes, just like this industry of healthcare, they're dwindling down. So if this is something that you guys decide that you don't want to exist in this particular neighborhood, that's fine. I can move it to another one and it'll exist just like how I had my first one. But I'm the person that provides senior homes to the ones that don't have that particular funding to live in these nice, lavish 200-bed ones that provide all the bells and whistles. We're able to provide seniors in homes that are keeping them in what they need to be at their last days of living, and putting them in these nursing homes or places that are just not sufficient to put your cat or dog. Why would we do that? And so you're stopping something great in the community. Like I said, you guys didn't know I was in existence at 863, and yes, I'm at 902 now, and it's sad because these communities keep closing down day by day because of things like this. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
May I ask this applicant a question?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you confused me a little bit with your terminology. Would you clarify for me, are you currently operating an ALF at 902 Higher?
No.
Okay, because you used the terms move and shut down, and so it made me think that you were already in
Oh, no, I was
operation.
just saying, like, you guys just shut down the idea of it, just
Okay.
even.
And do you believe that anything in this proceeding has any bearing on somebody trying to shut down your operation at 863 Coons?
I think there are gonna be some proof, I think I'll get some.
No, but do you believe that anything in this proceeding has anything to do with that?
No, I just think people are comparing,
Thank you.
they're comparing that
That
it's there in existence.
Okay.
I had the pleasure of reading the letter that you submitted as part of your various requests. And on there, I think you have misstated what statute 419 says, in the fact that you said you bought the property, that it is within compliance, and it's not. So as a practitioner, business owner, did you actually look at those statutes that was stated on your denial?
So what we did was, when I was working with my realtor and we were looking at the guidance, when it said 1,000, I guess we both misunderstood like the radius. So I had already told her about that, so that was why, you know, I bought it with that intention, and then obviously this happened, so now we have to go through the variance process. So yes, I did do research, but I think we both misunderstood, and this is what's leading me to this now, thinking we were in compliance with the purchase, and then now we're not. So now it's like, it's already put me in such a predicament where it's like, I bought something thinking I was doing the right thing, it was within that radius, and it's not, because we did, I guess, like a map search versus an actual radius, so.
Okay, so any denial to which you've already received from planning and zoning is not necessary to shut you down as your, you know, shut you down the ability to grow. It's basically, they were following guidelines. So you do agree with that?
Right, but then I also did research that in Orange County, there's a property called Brookdale, which I believe went to Madison, and they have 2 properties on the same, with different license numbers, and they're on the same property. Regardless if they're a little bit bigger or not, they are granted, and they're 2 different licenses, 2 different names, and they are within the same property.
Good? No, good. Okay, thank you very much. At this point, I'm gonna close the public hearing and bring it back up to the dais. Does anybody have any other questions for staff before we move forward?
I do. I got a staff question. Seeing that this is a business in a residential area and doesn't really, in my opinion, follow proper zoning, how did this get through in the first place?
So let me just clarify for the commission and the audience. Florida statute requires all local governments to deem or consider minor community residential homes or community residential homes serving 6 or fewer as a residential use, and they can be in a residential environment. The statute's stipulation is the distancing requirements. So the definition in statutes in 419 says that a community residential home is a home that provides the equivalent of a functional family to residents of the state that receive services from the state between 7 to 14. Further down in the statutes, it says that a community residential home serving 6 or fewer shall be treated as a residential use and can be allowed in a residential neighborhood. We cannot treat it as a commercial per statutes. The limitation is, again, just to the reference of the 1,000. When 863 came in, we treated it as a residential, and there were no other facilities around. So they were given that opportunity. When this one comes in, because it's not meeting the 1,000-foot radius, that's why we denied that application. In the other applications for assisted living facilities that staff has processed in the past, typically a property owner requests the reservation letter first. Because it's just a reservation letter, our process allows us to put on this map that I showed earlier. So in the application process for an ALF, we review it, we check the radius, make sure that there aren't any others around. We flag it with the little yellow rectangle here to state that there is an active one. If there is an active one, we inform the applicant that we have to deny their reservation. If there isn't one, then we issue them a reservation letter, and that reservation letter is good for a period of 6 months for the applicant to do what they have to do to get state approval, state licensing, if they need to sign a lease agreement or purchase a property. So that is a process that the city provides before a person makes that financial investment. In terms of the one in Orange County, one, is a different jurisdiction. 2, having some experience with Orange County, they were not, at the beginning of the ALF legislation, they were not mapping the ALF locations. They'd write a letter, and I know because I wrote those letters, and they look at them on a one case-by-case basis without creating a map. The city of Ocoee has taken it a step further to be responsible and identified those properties that we have placed reservations to avoid instances like that. So,
Yep. In your research in this, have we allowed this special exemption or variance to any other ALFs in the city of Ocoee where they've had a less than 1,000 feet between them?
We've not, to my knowledge, processed the variance. I think the very first one that came in, that staff approved one within the 1,000 foot, and that's the reason why the city planning commission, planning department, at that time, I think it was a couple years ago, created this mapping system so that we can keep track of the ones. And then if one were to go out of business, which we have had one go out of business, the operator sends an email to the building division, because they do have to pay their local business tax on an annual basis, to inform the building division that they are no longer obligated to pay their business tax because they're no longer in operation. So then we would update this map and remove the yellow square.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, so what we're gonna need now is a motion for this variance request, VR 2202. Do I have a motion to approve or to deny?
I'll make a motion.
And, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, it will be a recommendation to approve.
Excuse me, sorry.
I will make a motion to recommend denial of the variance request for VR 22-02.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Member Kennedy to make a request to deny, with a second by Vice Chair Mellon. Any other discussion? All right, I'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries as denied. Sorry. Okay, now we're gonna move back to old business, which is Land Development Code, LDC amendment for Airbnb. This is LDC amendment to Article 2, Section 2.4, definitions and articles. And we'll go back to Zoning Manager Whitfield.
Before you do that, Mr. Chair, do you want to give a moment in case anybody wants to leave who's been here for the...
Absolutely. Thank you for coming. We're going to take a minute break while we let everybody matriculate. I'm just going to make it stay. If I got to be here, you got to be here.
You get a civics lesson. You get a civics lesson.
How many Mountain Dews are you going to have tonight? Hey, Jay, how many Mountain Dews are you going to have tonight? You got one up there, you got one over there.
That's fine. Got here early.
We are still on the air, by the way. Okay, let's move forward. Zoning Manager Whitfield.
Thank you. This is an item that was continued from from last month's hearing. The discussion topic is on tourist homes. The issue before the Planning and Zoning Commission again is, should you, acting as a local planning agency, recommend approval of amendments to the Land Development Code relating to Article 2, Section 2-4, which is definitions, and Article 5, Section 5-15, relating to tourist homes, to ensure the health, safety, and public welfare of the general public. Sorry, the mouse doesn't want to work. I'm going to go through these pretty quickly since we've seen it all previously. State legislation preempts the city's ability to prohibit vacation homes and to regulate the frequency and duration of those units, except that we do have the ability to continue to inspect the units for fire and building code compliance. The existing code references in the city of Ocoee are Chapter 119 regarding taxation, tourist home definition, the requirements for parking of tourist homes, the prohibition of accessory dwelling units in the condominium type developments, which are multifamily homes that are for fee simple ownership inside of each dwelling unit. And residential lots in residential districts can have an accessory dwelling unit in those lots as long as they meet the requirements of the principal structure. Proposed changes, again, updating the existing definition to include structures and creating a new definition for transient guests, since the current definition makes reference to transient guests, and then adding one that's for vacation rental to refer to tourist homes, just in case someone's searching on Municode, they can find it that way. In terms of the changes to Article 5, staff is recommending a new section, 5-15C, for tourist homes in order to create a process for how we can accept and review these applications and track them for safety and compliance. The changes include, provisions for the process includes a no-cost application for the tourist home, local business tax, and certificate. Home-based businesses do not have to pay an application fee, they just have to pay the tax. This will be the same. Payment of the local business tax, which is already set in Chapter 119. Clarification on parking, in that it just states in there that parking for the vacation homes would have to comply the maximum impervious surface areas and percentage and whatnot, like a single-family home would. Identification of a responsible party, so that the city has a person to reach out to should there be an issue or an emergency, and then the requirement that the operator or the responsible party be available to make the home available for inspection within 48 hours of written notice from the city. Previous discussions. So from the last month's discussion, 2 questions were asked that the city attorney's office and I researched. Can the city regulate the number of bookings at a single tourist home? And the city attorney's research on legislation and case law, based on that, she's recommending that we don't include provisions which limit the number of separate bookings due to the possibility of being in conflict with the statutory preemption relative to use. So if you want to discuss that first, we can, before we go on to the second one.
Anybody have any questions so far? Not yet. It makes sense.
Okay. All right, in terms of the tourist home versus a bed and breakfast establishment, the distinction, I also consulted the deputy building official. In the Florida Building Code, both a tourist home / vacation home is considered a commercial establishment, just like a short-term, a bed and breakfast is considered a commercial establishment. The distinction is the rating, the occupancy, the FBC occupancy rating. One is R1, the other is R2, which is very different and sometimes to the general public confusing because we have an R1 zoning and an R2 zoning. And the city attorney's interpretation of 509 Florida statutes is that, like the building code, they're both transient public lodging, which is a commercial establishment. The distinction is that the bed and breakfast is known as a bed and breakfast and it provides meal services, whereas the tourist home is just a vacation location and the person has to do their own thing. So with that, we are recommending that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval to the City Commission to change the Article 2, Section 2-4, and Article 5, Sections 5- to create 5-15C as presented in the staff report and draft ordinance.
Great, thanks. I'm gonna open it up to the public. Is there anybody here who'd like to speak? Yes, please come on up and just, you have your card? Perfect. Just give your name and address when you get up there. Thank you.
I'm Clay Singleton. I live at 321 Beacon Point Drive, and I'm here to speak in favor of the staff recommendations. I listened to the recording of the previous meeting where you all discussed this, and English is a very imprecise language, and so we struggle with the definitions. I think this particular version of the recommendation is pretty solid, much improved. I was pleased to learn that we already have on the books in Ocoee a regulation for parking, which seems to me the essence of the clarifications that are being proposed. So I think this is a good ordinance for Ocoee to accept. The biggest problem that I see in my neighborhood is congestion due to parking on the street. There are not enough parking spaces for the people who are renting out their rooms in their home. No intention of stopping people from operating a B&B if that's what they want to do. I think that's fine, but the parking is the biggest concern in my neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, anybody else? We're gonna close the public comments, bring it back up. Does anybody have any questions?
I've got a couple.
Okay, Joe.
First one I think is probably just technicality here, but you put in the packet an ordinance, and I noticed that in the ordinance, we approved on April 12th, we approved this already, which makes me say somebody took me for granted, because that's why we're here tonight. So please change the whereas for April 12th, 2022, Planning Commission acting as held an advertised public notice hearing and recommended approval of the amendment, because we did not do that at April 12th. So that's the first one. Second one, and I'm still gonna go with it, and I'll throw out the question and I'll get an answer. My house, I've got 4 bedrooms. I have a kitchen, I have a living room, I have a dining room, I have a family room. How many rooms are in my, and I have 2 bathrooms, and we'll just argue that either way, and I have 2 bathrooms. How many rooms do I have in my house?
And you're asking me,
I'll-
Commissioner Keller?
You probably can give me the best legal answer to that question. So I'll start with you, but then I'll take it, because I have at least 8 rooms, and we'll discuss whether or not the bathrooms are a room. So I say I've got an 8-room house.
I'm gonna interrupt
Yes
you
or no?
if you don't mind. The statute does speak to that, right, about sleepable rooms?
Our current
That's it. It
definition,
does not.
our current definition says, a dwelling, this is existing, a dwelling in which sleeping accommodations in not more than 4 rooms are provided.
Right. But number 6, in the way this is worded now in tourist homes, a floor plan of a tourist home and the rooms that may be rented or offered for rent, a floor plan of the tourist homes, the rooms that may be rented or offered for rent to transient guests. Maximum of 4 rooms may be rented or offered for rent to transient guests. The way I read that, and I guess I'll Madam Attorney, I'll defer to you on this, but the way I read that is, I have a family that comes into my house. They have a wife, a son, husband, wife, son and daughter. Daughter's in one room, son's in one room, husband and wife are in the master bedroom. And they want to use the kitchen because they like to cook. That means they can't use the other 4 rooms of they have not rented the other 4 rooms and therefore cannot use the other 4 rooms of my house.
I think it goes back to the issue of sleeping rooms, as Ms. Whitfield just said.
I'm looking at a definition of sleeping room, and sleeping room or bedroom here and what they define as a habitable room, which is used primarily for sleeping and containing a closet of 16 inches or greater in depth.
Right, but that's not what Tourist Home C says. I mean,
Wait, what are you,
that's
Mr.
where-
Keller,
that's where
what are you reading from, Mr. Keller?
I'm reading from 515 Specific Use Development Standards,
C6.
Tourist Home.
C6.
Yeah, it says room, not
C6.
necessarily sleeping rooms.
There is
Okay.
nothing in there that says sleeping rooms.
So
We-
can
we
we
should amend that.
can we make it
Yes.
say
Correct.
Yeah,
almost close to what that definition that I just brought up was?
I think the intent is a sleeping room.
But we have to be clear with that.
A
So I do
habitable
agree,
room
it
for
should say,
sleeping.
Yeah, I mean, just
because-
humor me and change that. Change the wording on that one.
Sure,
The
that's-
dining room is not an inhabitable room for sleeping.
But you're renting it. You're still renting that room in the house.
We can make
I mean,
that,
I've slept on floors in a lot of different places, but technically it's not a habitable sleeping room.
It's an amenity.
Wait,
No,
no,
I think-
but is a family room or a living room a sleepable room?
I would consider it still not a habitable sleeping room because the lights can stay on 24/7, a TV can be on, that's where people come to congregate.
yeah, we can add that, definitely.
If you
clarification.
change
Yeah, I
it,
would-
says-
I would make it
know
more
this is my
confirmed,
second
yeah.
time bringing it up.
Yeah, as opposed to say, 4 rooms, I would probably make it
Just
sleeping
tell
room.
me 4 sleeping rooms and I'll be,
Because
you've got me there.
So I'm gonna add at the end of that, rented or offered for rent to transit guests for sleeping accommodations.
I guess, can I just ask you a
4
question?
sleeping
if I-
Maximum of 4 rooms
Do you-
for sleeping accommodations.
If someone has a 2-bedroom house and they're gonna put cots in the dining room, are you gonna, is that,
That's not a habitable sleeping room.
That's why it's an amenity room.
Yeah, I just,
It's about lodging. This
Yeah.
is about lodging, and they're only offering 4 rooms for rent.
Well, I think she's successfully taken care of this issue.
yeah,
right,
I
by
think so too, yeah.
coming to a little more finite definition to say,
That's fine.
habitable sleeping room.
Yeah, just give me
And
the
I don't know if
sleeping
that
rooms
needs to
and
be
do it.
defined or not, whatever, if you really wanna go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, sleeping rooms, I don't have a problem.
I mean, I read it as, you know, like a bedroom was counted, I mean, that's how I interpreted it, but I mean, you know.
I just don't want a homeowner association to come back and say, against a homeowner who's trying to rent out their room.
Well, an HOA already can, I mean, they can
Well,
mix
the
all of
H-
this into.
Well, the HOA really can't stop this because it's a state mandate. But they could say that you can't rent out yours because you have 8 rooms in the house and you only can rent out 4 of them and therefore you can't rent out your house. And I don't want that to be a lawsuit later on. I would rather make it
Clearly
clear.
state.
Yeah, just
Just
add the
for-
word for sleepable rooms or however you wanna put it.
Bedrooms or.
Yeah,
For-
and I'm happy with it, but that's the only thing I'm seeing that I could see that I could come back as a homeowner, association and say, you know what, you can't rent out yours because you've got more than 4 rooms that you're renting out in your house.
For the record, I did speak with the deputy building official about the question that came up last time about locking doors. His direction was that single-family homes, there's nothing in code, the Florida Building Code, about locking up doors, but someone that's operating this is entering into a contract with somebody who's coming in. So with that contract, they're committing to whatever rooms they're offering up for rental.
But in my case, I'm renting out I'm going out for July, I'm renting out my house to somebody who comes in who, you know, that way I make some money while I'm out on vacation and helps pay off my vacation a little bit, you know, so, but, you know, I'm renting out my whole house, I'm not renting out 4 rooms of my house, I'm renting out.
Well, I think as the owner-operator, you ought to feel obligated because in the affidavit, you're attesting or you're signing that you are complying with the requirements. So if someone were to do that and they are a repeat offender, then the city in this provision, this code, would have the right to revoke their certificate. So if someone were to
It
complain.
goes back to my point, can you revoke my certificate because I rented out my whole house and I had 8 rooms and I have technically rented out 8 rooms, not 4. This works really well. If I live in my house and I rent out to people who come in while I'm still there, this doesn't work well for me if I'm leaving my house and renting it for a month or 2 weeks or something.
Do you feel that it ought to be more restrictive in terms of?
No, I just want you to say which you had already mentioned, and that was why I think that's
Specify
fine.
sleeping
Is
rooms.
just mention that it's 4 sleeping rooms.
Okay.
Specify.
And, yeah.
Done.
And the other rooms don't matter, yeah.
Done.
I do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so can you give us a clarification on that and what needs to be amended?
Yes, so I will be amending 5-15C6 to state that a floor plan of the tourist home and rooms that may be rented or offered for rent to transient guests for sleeping accommodations. That's one of the things that's required in the submittal. Next sentence, maximum of 4 rooms may be rented or offered for rent for transient guests for sleeping accommodations, for habitable sleeping accommodations.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Now, I got a question.
No, you don't.
Oh, I do.
Go ahead.
I actually did some research on this last, like 2 weeks over Airbnbs and, I know some of the cities and locales have something similar to this. I'm sure this is where y'all got your verbiage, but quite a few of them they must be a resident of that community. And they're putting provisions in there saying, essentially trying to curtail, like corporations come in, buying a house and, you know, it's empty and it's a sole Airbnb or, you know, so would that be something that we could add, that the home must be owned by a Ocoee resident to take?
Doesn't that go against the new laws that just came out about small businesses and?
Well,
It says the owner of a tourist home shall reside within
Does it
the
already say
city
that?
or within a
Okay.
10-minute mile drive of the home.
Yeah,
Okay.
They gotta be within 10 miles of it.
Perfect.
I don't think it's the owner, it's the responsible party.
Yeah, it says, that's what it was.
C2 says the owner of a tourist home shall okay, you are correct. Shall designate a responsible party that the board that must resign.
Right, but so it doesn't say the owner must be a resident and then can designate a
Yes,
responsible party.
that distinction is.
The only question that I would ask is whether or not that language was in there prior to the legislation.
Right, the new law change.
If you tell me the jurisdiction, I can look up and see when they passed
I'll
that
have to
ordinance.
get back with you on that.
Okay.
But there-
Any other questions for staff? I need a motion to recommend approval or deny.
I'll make a motion to approve with the amendment,
Recommend approval.
with the amended change.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion for recommendation of approval by member Keller and a second by member Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Perfect. Closed.
Thank you.
All right, so now we did the new business, we did the old business, let's do the miscellaneous business. Project status reports. You check Sonny's drywall, everything's looking good.
Scott can't get them drywall, so they're not. We had our volunteer banquet last week. Missed some of you guys there, and ladies. That's not here, wasn't there as well. Well, she sits over there. She normally sits over there, and I was looking for the name. Keep in mind, next year, it's usually a really good event. They go out of their way for that. Got to meet some nice people, Scott's wife. And so, just looking forward to any questions you have. The city had another block party. I think it was successful. I walked around and tried to talk to some of the merchants. We got some things happening, and we've got, had a meeting today with the next Orange County planner that had done high-level planning. He's a consultant now, came early and walked around, was very complimentary of the downtown. He could kind of see things like maybe you guys, after seeing some projects, kind of see what's going on, see some of the added benefit of things the city's doing with trees in the sidewalk, just kind of added things. And so that was nice to hear. But I'm here.
Is City Center started, or when are they gonna start their garages?
Good question. They did a punch list the last couple of weeks, 2 weeks ago, a couple of weeks before that, they had a utility punch list. They had to TV some of the videos, some of the lines, and made some corrections there. They're repairing the fence that fell down, so expecting any time now, so.
Cool. Anybody else have any questions? All right. No, we're good. I got siding up there, looking great. All right, if that's it, we'll call it a day. Thank you very much.